Good morning, everyone. Good morning on this Easter Sunday. I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Erie and today's service, which is all about coming back to life. My name is Kristina Church, and I have the pleasure and the privilege of serving this wonderful congregation as its minister. Today we have a service for you that is filled with music and joy, featuring some of our wonderful UUCE musicians, including James Pearson, our wonderful cellist, and some new selections from our virtual UUCE choir. It is the tradition of this congregation to call us into a time of mindfulness and thoughtfulness with the sound of a bell. And so if you have a bell or something to make a joyful noise with, I invite you now to unmute yourself as we call one another into a time of worship.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Thank you for that joyful noise, and welcome one and all. We also have a welcoming song that we sing to welcome those who've been here hundreds of times and those who have just come for the first time this morning. Whoever you are, we welcome you. And we have James and Lynn to sing our special welcoming song this morning.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Wherever you are, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you are, love, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you.
Thank you so much. Whoever you are, we welcome you, and we're so glad you're here with us this morning. It's a beautiful day. It is Easter morning, and we wish you joy. Our opening words this morning are from Reverend Richard Gilbert, a minister from Western New York, who writes these words for Easter Sunday. A tomb is no place to stay, be it a cave in the Judean hills or the dark cavern of the spirit. A tomb is no place to stay when fresh grass rolls away the stone of winter cold, and valiant little flowers burst their way into warmth and light. A tomb is no place to stay when each morning announces our reprieve, and we know we are granted yet another day of living. A tomb is no place to stay when life laughs a welcome to hearts that have been away too long. Thank you, James, for that prelude. And to continue leading us into this time together, I invite you to light a chalice, or if you have one, a candle or a lamp of some kind, as we say the words that are on your screen. Deep calls unto deep, joy calls unto joy, light calls unto light. Let the kindling of this flame rekindle in us the inner light of love, of peace, of hope. And as one flame lights another, nor grows the less, we pledge ourselves to be the bearers of light, wherever we are. Our chalice is lit. And to continue our opening traditions, we have a universal covenant, complete with some gestures that go with the words. And I invite someone out there who would like to lead us in this universal covenant to unmute yourself and volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
Thank you, Mary.
We are Unitarian Universalists, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands. We care for the earth and each other.
Thank you, Mary and Steve. In addition to the universal covenant spoken and affirmed by many congregations, this congregation has one covenant that is unique to itself. It's known as our bond of union. It was adopted in 1898, and we say it each Sunday. I invite you to say it with me with the words on your screen. We unite ourselves together for the study and practice of morality and religion, as interpreted by the growing thought and noblest lives of humanity, believing that we may thereby prove helpful one to another and promote the cause of truth, righteousness, and love in the world. May it be so. I invite you into a time for all ages, and I would like to share this story. A story that was written by another minister and shared recently. She says, "In the church that raised me, there was a woman named Gussie. And Gussie was 81 years older than me. I considered her to be my special friend. Gussie was the kind of person that just about everybody considered their special friend. One of the wonderful things about her was that she got dressed for church. She emerged from these struggles of her own life with a commitment to beauty and to elegance. Her formal suit and hat and gloves really stood out in our UU congregation. Now, most people in this suburban Seattle congregation dressed in polar fleece and sensible shoes, as if a hike might break out at any moment. On Easter, Gussie always outdid herself. She would wear an Easter bonnet, tastefully done up with flowers all around the brim. And everyone looked forward to seeing that beauty and joy that she brought on Easter mornings. Gussie died when she was in her late 90s after a long life and a brief illness. And she died in the early spring, a few weeks before Easter, we all mourned. People shared how sad they would be not to see Gussie in her beautiful Easter bonnet that year. And it felt like the end of Gussie's story. But then someone had an idea. What if we all wore Easter bonnets like Gussie did? The word spread. And that Easter morning, the sanctuary was filled with beautiful, colorful Easter bonnets and other exciting hats on the heads of dozens of people of all genders. It was beautiful. And the church has continued that tradition. People wear Easter bonnets and other lovely hats every Easter morning. People who loved Gussie, people who never even knew Gussie, and people who weren't even born before her death have all been invited into Gussie's continuing story. Her commitment to beauty and joy lives on. While this Easter bonnet tradition has faded a little bit over the years, it still continues. And the writer says, "This is my favorite resurrection story. People of all ages and all genders wearing these Easter bonnets year after year in memory of someone that not all of them remember. It is a triumph of love over death, which is the core of the Easter message. You see, death is never the end of the story. Gussie's story continues on in the hearts and on the heads of the congregation that loved her." And so we can think about ways that life continues after death, that we can keep alive or bring back alive the memories of those we have loved. May it be so. And now I invite you into a time of generosity and sharing. This congregation takes an offering each week to support its work. You can take a moment while you're listening to the beautiful music and write out a check, and you can mail it to the address you see on your screen, or you can go to uuerie.org/donate. And if the payment is towards your pledge, please let us know. And while you're doing that and meditating on generosity and community, we offer this beautiful piece from James, Caprice number 3 by Dalla Bacco. Thank you, James. A couple of days ago, some gifts showed up on my porch from a neighbor and a friend. She had made some delicious ciabatta bread, and I texted her to say thank you. And she said, well, it feels like it's time to come back to life, and I haven't seen you in a while, and I thought it would be fun to just surprise you. And along with the bread, there was this card. I don't know how well you can, I'll hold it like this so you can see it. Oh, there. I think it won't disappear if I hold it like this. And the card says, always believe that something wonderful is about to happen. And it has little beautiful flowers and pretty spring colors on it. And I thought that's a great way to think about Easter, especially this year. Always believe that something wonderful is about to happen. We've had a tough year, but I'm seizing the opportunity to believe that good things are up ahead. As the sunshine returns, as the flowers return, and perhaps as hope returns to our hearts. That's my Easter this year. And I'm wondering, what is your version of Easter this year? It can be a difficult holiday, especially for UUs. Without some kind of coherent cultural narrative to put the pieces together, it can be something of a build your own holiday, right? Each of us has to thread our way through the vagaries of the Easter stories, the layers upon layers of lost cultural meaning, like an archaeological expedition that turns up nothing in the way of answers, only leads us further down the rabbit hole, so to speak, of even more questions. Now, for Unitarian Universalists who tend to like to intellectualize anyway, it's tempting to just throw the whole thing in the dustbin of history. Except that then some of us rationalize, well, how would the kids feel about that? No chocolate bunnies, hollow or solid. No Easter egg hunts, no bonnets, no parades, no frolicking lambs, no baby chicks, no carrot cake, no new dresses. Ever again? Now, needless to say, none of these traditions has anything to do with the final week of the life of Yeshua of Nazareth, who legend has it was tried and crucified by Roman occupying forces in Jerusalem, and then rose again from his tomb in a demonstration of triumph over pain and death and suffering that he had known in his short life at the hands of the powers that be. And all of that is layered on top of the Jewish holiday of Passover, as the name of Easter in many languages, Pascua, recognizes. So is this just a matter of careless and sloppy cultural appropriation, or what? I mean, the Christians, the Romans who brought Christianity to many cultures of Europe were pretty careful to cover their tracks, converting pagan shrines to Christian holy sites and changing, for example, the name of Yule to Christmas. But then they just left the good old Easter title hanging out there. An old name slapped onto a newer tradition. Well, those Romans were pretty clever. You see, they took an ancient story about coming back to life after suffering and death, and they just kind of plowed that garden bed under, and they seeded their new story on top of the compost of the old ones. So we could spend our time here today thinking about the conflict between Mother Earth, Demeter, Ceres, Gaia, Astarte, and the Father God, who later replaced those venerable ladies and supplanted all those traditions that had grown up around them. But I have to tell you that this year I'm less interested than ever in tracing these same old circles around the same old overplowed field. Because this year, what feels meaningful is looking out my window and noticing that after a long winter in which there have been many losses, many deaths, much grief, that there, in that old, often trodden field, there are crocuses coming up again, coming back to life. And this feels like as good of a place as ever for a little bit of music. So we have a very special musical treat for you. And feel free to sing along while muted if you like. It's the good old Easter hymn, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again, in a new presentation from James. The only thing better than an anthem by James on the cello is James ×3 on the cello. That was just beautiful, and it made my heart sing. Thank you. Now, if there's one thing that I keep hearing about UUs and Easter, it's that we don't know how to do it right. As if there's a right way to do it, as if someone out there has defined what the proper approach to this hot mess of a holiday ought to be. And in this school of thought, we don't know how to do Easter because we don't ever do Lent or the Passion or Tenebrae or Good Friday. We want the denouement without the climax. We want the happy ending without the shootout by the railroad tracks. We want the Easter bonnet without the sackcloth and ashes. We want the ham and potatoes without all the dinners of turnip stew leading up to that final happy, abundant feast. And whether in past years that has been true or not, it seems to me that this year we have had our crosses to bear, so to speak, whether we wanted them or not. And whether you believe in the story of the womb, Mother Nature's new life after the death of winter, or the tomb, Jesus' rising from death. Whichever your story of Easter is, or maybe some other one that makes more sense to you, this year, every single one of us can really get into the theme of coming back to life. And boy, do we need it. Now, I'll be the first one to admit that I've had a great deal of privilege in my life. And maybe some of us here could say the same. And this time of COVID has been no exception for me. I'm both happy and somehow apologetic about that. I haven't faced economic insecurity. I haven't lost any loved ones to this virus. And I've been with my beloved family the entire time. But nonetheless, there's been plenty of deprivation to go around this year. For any of us, whoever you are, whatever your circumstances, this pandemic has ravaged the order of our lives and kept us from being with our communities, this community. It has made us fear the very activities that formerly brought us the most happiness. And then on top of that, we have, as a nation, had many, many difficulties, terrible losses. The murder of George Floyd, the Capitol insurrection, mass murders in Atlanta and Boulder. I could go on, but I don't have to, because you were there watching too, and you know it all by heart. Now, in such a world as this one, we could go about always believing that something terrible is about to happen. And in times like these, it is so easy to believe that, isn't it? It is so easy to live in fear and anxiety. But the message of Easter, the message of coming back to life, is that there is hope. The message of Easter is to prepare yourself for something wonderful, even when that doesn't make a lot of sense. Look for something wonderful and act for it. Help it to come into this world. As the poet Wendell Berry says, be joyful, even though you have considered all the facts. Practice resurrection. When our heart is hurting, when things seem the most bleak, that is when something wonderful is bound to occur. The miracle of a meadow, or a man, or a melancholy, grieving heart coming back to life. after a time of suffering. In his classic words for Easter worship, Reverend Richard Gilbert, beloved longtime minister and UU social justice leader based in Rochester, New York, he said, "A tomb is no place to stay." And I would add that a womb is also not a place to stay forever. And so as we engage with this intoxicating process of spring, once again, for the 5th or the 47th or the 99th time of our lives, let us rejoice with the earth. Let us exult with the flowers. Let us play with the frolicking lambs. Yes, our bodies feel this new life that Mother Earth is generating in her womb. And the proper response is always joy and gladness. The proper response is Alleluia. Let us not forebode this joy, this merriment that's at hand, with fears and anxieties about what might be to come. Let us seize this happy moment. Let us feel in our bones the return of light and life to this part of our earth. Let us thank the goddess for her overflowing bounty. And yes, let there be a thread of lament and melancholy running through our celebrations too. Let us not live in denial of all that we have known and experienced this year. For if that time of suffering, if that time of the passion is lost to memory, so will be all the lessons contained in it. So let the news of the empty tomb bring wonder and joy, but also grief and sadness at the partings that this winter has brought. This year, I think that UUs know exactly how to do Easter right. Who better than we to understand that the dawn of the new must be built on the plowed under garden of yesteryear. As we come back to life after this time of suffering and sadness, let life call you back to itself. Let yourself believe once again that something wonderful is about to happen. And as we come back to life, let us always remember that our faith calls us to widen our circles of care and concern and our circles of joy beyond our own small lives. Calls us to join with others to relieve suffering and to work for justice in this world. This is the way that we will continue to bring our country back to life after its long age of injustice and inequality. This is the way that we will help to bring our earth back to life and ourselves along with it. This is the way that we will sing awake the night every time it comes. Each and every morning of our lives coming back to life with love and with resilience. Happy Easter. May the joy of spring be yours this year and every year. And may the promise of new life bring your heart hope in difficult times. May something in you that was lifeless now come back to life. And to help sing us awake, we have that other video that you got a preview of, the UU Erie Choir virtual choir singing May Your Life Be as a Song. Please enjoy.
May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light,
and softly serenade the stars,
ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and sounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, ever dancing circles in the night. The stars ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly serenade the stars ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and may your life be as a song, ever dancing with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly sing awake the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night.
Thank you to all who participated in that lovely gem of a piece. And thank you, Kelly, for putting it together. Now is the time when this congregation shares joys and concerns, whatever is on your heart. Feel free as we listen to another beautiful piece, the Prelude in G Major by Johann Sebastian Bach, performed by James on cello. I invite you to share in the chat box a few adjectives about how you're feeling today. We will bear witness to one another's state of mind. And afterwards, we'll take a moment of silence to continue to bear witness and be there for one another in our joys and in our sorrows. In the sharing of concerns and joys today, I saw messages of gratitude for this beautiful community and especially for the music today. Feelings of hope and renewal, also feelings of being overwhelmed and feeling down. Folks who were looking forward to family gatherings that have again become possible, birthdays and other celebrations, and others who remind us that there are still many people suffering all over the world, and to be mindful of that as well. For all these emotions, all these feelings that you've shared today, and for those that were too tender to share, we hold you in our hearts. We bear witness. We are with you. Our closing words today are from UU Minister Josh Pollock. Now, let us rise. Now, let us waken to a new dawn, a new day. Let us remake the world with the hope of Easter. Let us set free the prisoners. Let us house the homeless, educate the children, offer gainful work to all who are willing and able to work. Protect soil, water, air, and food, and all forms of state-sanctioned violence. Now, may we awaken and stay woke. Now, may we arise and stay risen. Amen, and blessed be. If you've lit a chalice or a candle today, I invite you to extinguish it now as I say these words from Elizabeth Sella Jones. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, not the warmth of community, and not the fire of compassion. For these we carry in our hearts always until we are together again. Thanks, James. That was so beautiful. And thanks to all who shared the gift of music with us today on this Easter Sunday. What a treat. What a wonderful beginning for today. I feel inspired by you. And thanks.